How's it going, film and TV fans? Welcome back to another Marvel review here on the Film and TV channel, and today we are looking at the most recently released, as of the recording date, which is the 5th of June, as Ms. Marvel is fast approaching, the most recently released Marvel Studios original series, Moon Knight, a Disney Plus exclusive, obviously, and bit of a different piece of music playing at the moment because it's not a score from the Moon Knight series, although that will be playing for the next episode, because this has essentially become the Moon Knight theme, and I rate that because it's a very good piece of music. But away from that, Moon Knight, a show and a character I knew very little about, but I'm happy to tell you that I love this show. I think it's one of the better Marvel shows. I won't lie. I think it's one of the stronger shows. I really like, what's his name, Oscar Isaac, being able to play these two characters at the same time is really fun. This first episode centres on Stephen Grant, and there's some elements of Mark Spector introduced, such as the telephone conversation between him and Layla. There's also obviously the elements of there's obviously also the bit where he gets taken to the Alps all of a sudden. And to be honest with you, most of the Moon Knight trailer is episode 1. I won't lie, there are some minutes for other episodes, but most of it is from the episode 1 because it works. But essentially, again, this is a great starting episode to introduce the character. It does everything a thing, and also this shot you hear is, see there, that thing you saw a minute ago is how the first episode ended. So it's basically just a trailer for the first episode. But my point is, this was a show that I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but I watched it and I enjoyed it nonetheless. And you know what? This is genuinely one of the more fun shows. I really like Haisham Nazir's score. Sorry if I mispronounced the name, because I probably fucking asked. I'm English. We need to pronounce everything. So I think, again, having an Egyptian composer for this project really worked, and a lot of people were hoping they'd go the same route with Ms. Marvel and have a Pakistani origin composer, but alas, that hasn't happened, as they gave the role of composing for Ms. Marvel to Laura Karpman, who had previously scored What If and is going to be scoring the Marvel. So a lot of Marvel-esque related isms at the moment, but yeah, it's like Laura Karpman is slowly becoming their next Christoph Beck, because they use Christoph Beck so fucking much these days, like Ant-Man 2, Ant-Man 3, fucking WandaVision and Hawkeye. So they do use Beck quite a lot, and they're looking like they're going to have Cartman in the same position, which I'm all for, because she's also very talented. But Moon Knight episode 1, really nice to see Ethan Hawke. Again, this year I have been exposed to Ethan Hawke isms for 3 projects so far. Well, 2, because the third one's not out yet. But this year has really been a good year for Ethan Hawke, as he's an actor who, before this year, I barely knew who the hell he was or what he was doing, and now I know him as being in some of my favourite movies and TV shows, and also just being a genuinely really cool human being outside of it. Obviously, those are the projects that are, if you don't know, this television show Moon Knight, the original movie The Northman, released in cinemas, and of course the upcoming movie The Black Phone. So yeah, there you go, which we'll be talking about both those two in the future as well. Northman particularly is one of my favourite movies this year. But I really like Ethan Hawke as the villain here. I can't remember his name, Arthur Harrow, that's it. I think it works really well. Again, the use of the A Man Without Love is sick. And then obviously the Moon Knight theme is played as well, which I really rate. Yeah, again, it's a series I've really enjoyed, and I can't wait to talk to you about it in depth. This first episode does a great job of setting stuff up, and the time scale and the time skips is really cool. And again, it's getting to see London, Britain, which is something that we don't see very often in these Marvel shows, and it's pulled off really well here. So I can't wait to explore this show even more in depth over the next 6 hours of my life. give or take. So yeah, strap in for Marvel Studios Moon Knight, and on to episode 2 as I hand you over to my future recorded self. How's it going? We're back with Moon Knight episode 2. What an epic moment. You know what? The thing I like about this episode is we then get to explore more of the Mark Spector. We get to explore more Mark Spector and Stephen Grant kind of things. Layla's introduced nicely here. You get more info on Khonshu and Harrow, which is really cool to see. You also get more background info on Mark Spector a little bit as well. I really like the storage sequence where storage unit sequence is really cool. There's a nice... I do think both Stephen Grant and Mark Spector have this really great entwinedness, and I think it's the best thing this series done so far is to start us from Grant's perspective instead of starting us from Mark Spector's perspective and then letting Stephen Grant slowly come in. They've done the opposite, starting us from Stephen Grant's perspective and then letting us discover Mark Spector, which is a much better way of doing things, I think. And I really think this has been one of the better Marvel series. Like I said, the storage unit sequence. You've got the London bus fight, which is really funny because you've got the iconic "I did it, bruv," and in it, and where he starts sounding too British because, you know, yeah, I will admit, I haven't talked about this yet, but the accent at first was annoying, but you get used to it after a while. I won't lie. It's one of those things that, you know, the more you watch the show, the more it doesn't bother you. And I think, again, episode 2 doesn't, I don't think, have the scope or the scale as the first one, but this is where we start going more mythologically, sort of like into, we go to Egypt at the end of episode 2, which is sick. Again, Hayashim Nazir's score is top notch. I love the Moon Knight theme you're hearing now. It's one of my favourite Marvel themes, I think, out there. And it's used so much throughout the whole show. It's really brilliant. The album, 33 track original soundtrack, is sick as well. Again, Nazir's work is really well done here. I won't lie, the score for this episode is brilliant, and I think that really does also reflect on the fact that the Engelbert Humperdinck song is also so intertwined with it, but it also has its own musical style with this, and there's also other use of other pop style songs as well in the movie, which is really kind of cool. And in the series, which I really rate that. But again, it's a solid episode that does so much. I like the sequence at the beginning where he goes back and watches the tape. There's a lot of memes from that as well, where he sees Mark Spector, and it's just really sick. I think it's a really well done episode, and yeah, the series as a whole is really fantastic. It's one of the better ones, and I think it's like that because, once again, like a lot of other stuff, it has no connections to the rest of the MCU. There is no reference to anyone else. I'm sure there's a few off references, like in the toilet there's a thing that says Thanos was right. A few smaller references, but there's no shoving in different characters. There's no setting up the next 4 or 5 movies. It's just telling one story, setting up one character, and doing it fantastically, like Loki before it. You know, and hopefully like Miss Marvel soon. I'm going into that show thinking it could be fun, and likewise I'm going to do that show week by week, so you get my full straight away opinion, so a bit different, but yeah. Yeah, it's a great episode, and on to episode. Alright, so oh fucking hell. That was my foot. Episode 3. Now this is an episode that I think has really great use of colour throughout a lot of the episodes. There's different colours that are sort of projected and used as nice so I give it that. It's got some nice colours. The sequence, the Arthur Harrow trial sequence is pretty fucking awesome. I won't lie. It's a cool sequence that shows how Harrow is, and obviously at the end of the episode, you see Khonshu get turned into Gamer Stone. But I also think at the same time, I really like the sequence where Harrow is in that room with Khonshu, and he basically says to Khonshu all the reasons why he didn't like working for him. And I really, you gotta respect the grinder. You just do. And yeah, it's just a really, yeah, it's a good episode. Like I said, it has some moments. I will give it that. It has some moments. Yeah, no, like I said, I like the sequence. I like the sequence where they go to the guy that's what's his name, Morgart. Fortunately, that actor died 2 months before the show premiered, so that's a sad. But you know, he did do. I mean, honestly, he was actually really good in this episode. I can't lie, he was quite menacing, and in the short but sweet role we had in the series, was really fucking good. I won't lie. So, he was genuinely one of the more fun moments of the episode. I won't lie, that whole sequence, you get to see so much more about Layla, and it even introduces what we find out later on in the series about Layla and her father and stuff like that, where it's poked at by Harrow, which is really cool, and I rate the way they did that. Yeah, it's just overall a sick episode. Genuinely, it amazes me that the series genuinely is one of the ones that keeps just getting better and better, and that's really cool. Anyway, on to episode 4. I mean, there's again Khonshu using the whole sunlight thing to get the attention of the gods is kind of cool. I won't lie. Yeah, no, we do get a bit backstory to Mark and Layla. It also shows that tells us that they had a wedding at some point, so that's cool. We also, that's it. In the last episode, we see I think it's called the Mr. Knight suit, the suit that Stephen Grant wears when he summons the suit, which is cool. So you also see both suits, which is really sick. I rate that. I think both suits are really nice. I really like the Mr. Knight suit because it looks very suave and sophisticated, almost James Bond-esque, really. Obviously, in the episode, we see Khonshu get turned to stone, so obviously Stephen and Mark are without Khonshu. So that's an interesting thing to see as it progresses into episode 4. So let's go to episode 4 now. Hey yo, episode 4. A big, thick, meaty episode. There is so much to unpack with this episode, and a lot of it genuinely scares me because it's a big one. There's a lot going on here. Genuinely, for an episode that has that much what's the word? Fuck, there's a word for it. Exposition. With the episode that has so much expositional dialogue in it manages to really work around that in a way that makes it still interesting every time they throw out exposition. There's new stuff about Layla and her father, which is sick. There's the scene where they go down to the tomb. Obviously, spoilers, but Mark dies, or the body that contains both of them dies. So that's the interesting one. I certainly think that it's one. Again, the music is on top form as well. They go to the tomb, which is an interesting part, if I do say so. Arthur Harrow says "Among Us," which is funny, a funny moment. Yeah, and then Arthur Harrow literally kills Mark and Steven, and then the last bit of the episode is, while we're not told that yet, it is now known that that's like the sort of the afterlife kind of thing. They're in a mental asylum, and at the end we meet, I think it's Tiamat. No, the hippo, the fucking hippo. This is the episode that ends with the hippo. Hippopotamus. Yes, that episode that ends with the hippo. Hippo Spitto. Yeah. Anyway, it's one that does feel. Again, so much exposition stuff that handles it so well. There's so much going on, and it's so well presented. Some really nice visual shots here as well. And again, the music is top notch, and the direction's quite nice as well. Which makes you really hope that this series comes back for a second season, which is rumoured to. But like I mentioned at the beginning of the Hawkeye review, these thumbnails will state series review as meant to be as a limited series. But if they do return for second seasons, I can edit the thumbnail to say season 1 review. So until it's confirmed by Marvel Studios that this is getting a second season, this video will be titled Moon Knight 2021 series review. Yeah, it's a difficult one. But it does do its job. So, moving on to episode 5. Let's go. So, episode 5. I'm one episode away from the series finale. But I think this is my favourite episode of Moon Knight. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Because this episode, I think, deals with what I consider the most dark and morbid topics the MCU has dealt with, and I don't mean in terms of horror, I mean in terms of someone's emotions being pushed to the limit. And you know, I think basically what I'm referring to is the fact that Mark was obviously abused as a child because of an accident, and to cope with this horrible thing happening to him, this horrible, really quite disgusting thing happened to him. Obviously his mum was, this is really deep and stuff and kind of topics you would not expect from Marvel stuff, and I'm really happy they did go that way. Not because I wanted to see a child get beat, no, because I like seeing the MCU tackle really quite deep and mature and adult topics in stuff that is usually marketed to kids, and I think this show does that perfectly, because having that, this whole episode is about the two of them and about how they've suffered, or more so how Mark has suffered and Steven hasn't, and this episode is essentially about Steven having to find out about the suffering so they can get back to the real world after dying, and even then by the end of the episode that doesn't happen. So it's one of those, it's definitely the best episode of the series, I think, because it deals with such a deep topic in such a convincing way, and I really do love how in the pain of all the abuse he created Steven to get away from it all, and I really do respect, you know, it's a really deep topic that the showrunners, the scriptwriters, everyone really took seriously, and I really just love how well it's handled here. It's not played for laughs. There's not a single funny scene in this episode, and I think that's perfect, because that's exactly what should happen when something like this is being portrayed, and I'm forever happy that they did it this way, because it is perfect for it to be done this way. And as such, like I said, it is one of my more favoured episodes of the show. It's so, yeah, I always am a fan of the MCU doing deeper and darker topics and really adult and mature things, and this is what this episode does perfectly. It is so good at keeping these topics and actually doing them properly and doing them justice and actually making sure they have a valid reason to appear in the story at all. And I think that's what's really so good about not only this episode but this series as a whole. Its ability to still have those comedic moments but also deal with some seriously adult and mature topics and be able to handle it so well, and be able to actually demonstrate the Egyptian mythology in a proper understanding way instead of just making it comic book bullshit. I have huge respect for that, and I have huge respect for the passion that is so obviously on screen from all of the script writers, from the all the way from the producers, the screenwriters, and the directors, all the way down to the boom mic operators and the set designers. You know, every person who is involved in this show put nothing but love and passion into it, and it really does come off on screen. Like I said, all the way from the actors, the actresses, the producers and the directors, all the way down to the boom operators and the caterers, it really comes off on screen that this was a project, this was a labour of love, and not made for profit. And while I wouldn't say stuff like Eternals and Black Widow was made for profit, there clearly wasn't as much love and attention put into those properties as, say, this and Loki and Spider-Man. It just felt like those specific properties were there just because they needed to have a movie for a specific slot in a year. They had that movie for that slot and they got delayed and then just left it there. So I think that's the only reason why Black Widow and Eternals aren't good. And if we are going to have to be forced to be subjugated to 4 movies a year, several mediocre ones and several good ones, then I guess that's how it has to be. But that is my view of Moon Knight episode 5. We're now going to move swiftly on to Moon Knight episode 6, Gods and Monsters, the season finale. So, episode 6, the finale. I think this is just a really fucking well done episode. I think as a whole the episode really does remain structurally sound. It brings everything together in such a nice way. It concludes the story nicely with Khonshu coming back, and then we get to see Layla as an avatar, and it's really cool. And as much as I do think it's episode 4 that stands out as the highlighted one because it deals with such heavy topics in a way, I still think this has some really brilliant moments. Some really brilliant moments. I like the parallel fight between Khonshu and Amit and Harrow and Moon Knight. Is a cool fucking fight where you've got the big ones in the background and the small ones in the foreground. It's really kind of sick. I think the whole conclusion of the story is done wonderfully. Shitting. Anyway, yeah. Again, the score was brilliant. It's good to hear this piece in the soundtrack. It's good that they get yeah. Yeah, it's just a really great finale to a show that I think is quite possibly one of the best Marvel shows out there, that really does deal with character and these two characters together with true emotion and also being true to the source material and Egyptian mythology. It's just so good, and I think one of the most important things to think about how standing out is that how incredible Oscar Isaac is doing, being able to play 2 characters, and by the end of the series 3 characters at once. And I think that's really important to understand, that he is killing it by doing that, and it takes a tremendous amount of talent to be able to play 2 people at once, and he pulls it off so fantastically. And even in those, the most important part of being 2 characters is the transition between the 2 of them. If that's not very obvious enough. So really, he is one of the most brilliantly awesome parts about this series, and I cannot wait to see Moon Knight, where he pops up next in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm all there for it. I'm all there for a second season of Moon Knight. So let's do it. But yeah, I think again I want to just reiterate how cool and good this song is. I fell in love with this song through this TV show, and a lot of people have, and I think it's one of the only times where a song has become so synonymous with a Marvel TV. Obviously pop songs and stuff have been used in openings of Marvel shows and movies before, but I think this is the first time where it's really been a big part of the show's branding in a way, because you see the filters for, you know, you see Instagram reels all about it with this song in the background and stuff, and it's really genuinely part of the marketing. To the point where Humperdinck has released this song so many times, so many videos of it with Moon Knight and stuff, so it's really sick. And I can't wait to see where Moon Knight goes next. So, thanks so much for watching my review of Marvel Studios' Moon Knight. Coming up, well, this does conclude the current Marvel look through until Doctor Strange comes out on Disney Plus, which is the 22nd of June. I'll rewatch it a couple of times and then we'll talk about that. But before then, I will be recording a Miss Marvel review each week. So there's that to look forward to. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Wonderful day, and bye bye for now. I'll leave you out with Engelbert.